Welcome to Fenton Elliott Solicitors discussions about family law. So I'm here with Chris Sutton, my partner who runs the family law part of the team. We share an open plan office, and I hear him and his team talking about private FDRs, a reasonable amount, and I have no idea what they are. So I thought it would be interesting to find out what they are. What's a private FDR? What's an FDR?
Well, let's start with that. So an FDR stands for Financial Dispute Resolution. Okay, the FDR is usually the second or maybe the first court hearing that you'd have on a financial remedy case on a divorce. The purpose of the hearing is to engage in without prejudice negotiations in front of the judge so that they can hear your position, hear your negotiating points, hear where you're coming from in terms of the case.
So without prejudice?
Without prejudice means that the court at any final hearing will not be aware of those discussions. It is a genuine attempt to settle a case without necessarily being bound by your attempt to settle it, should your case continue all the way to trial.
So you can have this confidential discussion with a judge, and if it works, that's great, you've sorted it. And if it doesn't work, then we had a go, it won't be held against you, we'll carry on with the formal court system. Is that how it works?
Exactly that.
Oh, okay.
So the purpose is you can dry run your arguments. You can try your case in an informal setting and see what a judge thinks.
How common is this?
It happens in every financial remedy case that goes through the courts.
Okay, then what's a financial remedy case?
So that is the point where you're determining where your assets are, how your assets are distributed on divorce, how the income claims might be between two spouses who are separating, and how you deal with things like pensions, etc. This is the negotiating of the financial pot.
Oh, and does that happen for every divorce?
It does.
So in that case, you have a private FDR almost in every case you have?
You'll have an FDR in every case that you take to court.
Right.
Okay. A private FDR is when you don't want to wait for the court to list you an FDR.
Oh, how long does it take for a court to list you an FDR?
It can take a while. So from issuing an application to court, you're normally looking at about 3 or maybe 4 months for a first hearing.
Right.
First hearing is often just a directions appointment. What information do we need? Do we need any expert evidence? Do we need any assets valued, etc.? If you don't need any of those things, you've already worked all of this out, your assets are relatively simple, you've already gained all the reports and expert evidence you could possibly need and answered each other's questions, you can proceed at the first hearing with an FDR. But normally it is the second hearing, so it might come another 3 to 4 months later after the first hearing. So you may be 8 months in to a court process before you have an FDR. But the courts are overrun with cases. They cannot cope with the amount of work that's going through them at the moment. And those listing times are getting longer and longer apart. So a private FDR is when parties decide, do you know what, I'm not waiting for this to come through the court system. I'm not going to wait 4, 5, 6 more months for an FDR hearing. I'm going to organise one privately.
And who pays?
The parties pay.
They both pay. So what do they pay? Do they pay for the judge's time?
They pay. So the parties will need to reach an agreement as to how they're going to fund jointly the judge's time and their costs for sitting as the judge for their half a day, their day, hearing their negotiations, and then giving their expert opinion. So a private FDR judge might be a senior barrister or a senior solicitor in family law who's been around the block enough times to know what the court is likely to be saying about various scenarios.
Okay. They
sit, rather than in their capacity as a solicitor or a barrister, they'll sit as a pretend judge. It might be that they sit as judges part-time anyway.
So does this happen at court, or do you have to find a venue?
It can happen wherever you like. We've hosted them in this very room.
Oh, okay.
It can be at a solicitor's office. You can hire a room in meeting centres. Barristers' chambers often host them in their premises. They've often got enough setups for suites and numerous meeting rooms.
So in your last 10 cases, how many FDRs have you had?
So it's difficult to give an exact number to that, but I would say of financial remedy cases that end up being contested, i.e. going to court or needing extensive negotiation, I would say probably about 8 or 9 of them will
Okay.
require some form of FDR process, whether that's in court or whether that's private.
And do most divorces have a financial conflict involved?
Not always. I have a lot of clients who I help where they know what they want to achieve, or they're very willing to engage very constructively with each other to reach an amicable settlement quickly and efficiently. I love those cases as much as I do the contested ones. More than happy to see cases drawn to a close very quickly. But the ones who have got difficulties in their negotiations, they've got an issue that's keeping them apart. They're the ones that might need that independent help.
So if a couple decide we're just not right for each other, we haven't got any children, and we've been married for 5 years, it's just, we're not happy, let's just move on. Those are the ones that are likely to go, look, we'll sell the house, we'll divide it up, and good luck. Is that sort of how it works?
It could be any type of family, quite frankly, that want to approach it that way. The ones that have the difficulties are the ones that have 2 different primary focuses.
Oh, okay.
So if you've got, and excuse me genderifying them for a moment, but if you've got, say, a husband who's particularly focused on retaining his pension, he wants to hold that pension in its entirety as much as he can, and that's his primary focus. Or maybe he wants to protect a business interest that he's got. But then perhaps you might have a wife on the other side who might be more focused on meeting as generously as possible her immediate needs, housing need, income need for her and maybe the children that she's anticipating being primary carer of. Might be that they're sharing the care, and in most cases that would happen.
And then there's a dispute about, whether you've got to give me some of your pension, whether you get the whole house for your entire life or just until the last child is 18, and then you've got to sell up. And is that the sort of thing they discuss?
Exactly that. So the parties end up, particularly if they're coming at it from different points of view, they can become more and more entrenched in their position. And that makes it difficult for them to reach the middle ground between them. And the middle ground is often where the settlement really should be. And that's where they might need an independent opinion. And that's where an FDR judge giving their opinion, which is not binding on any later hearing, to help them see where there might be weaknesses in their case and where there might be strengths in the other party's case.
And how often do private FDRs successfully wrap this up?
Private FDRs successfully wrap up a vast majority of cases.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Because the difference and the benefits of a private FDR over a court-based FDR are huge. So the first and obvious one is time.
Yeah.
You can organise a private FDR within a matter of weeks. The court will take numerous months to get you there.
Yeah.
That's benefit number one. Secondly, you have the opportunity to have the undivided attention of your judge. At an FDR in court, you will be one of 4 or 5 cases listed that day.
For the same judge?
For the same judge.
So they've got, an hour and a half with you?
Usually just less than an hour.
Gosh.
To hear the arguments, potentially read some of the paperwork, and I do mean potentially, and then give an opinion about the case. A private FDR, you have the undivided attention of a judge you and your spouse picked, with the help of your lawyers, presumably, who will then read everything, because they're being paid to read everything, and then they will give a reasoned opinion in writing and with accompanying schedules and all the explanatory information that can really help you say, do you know what, I've heard it from someone who gets it. They didn't accept everything in my case, but they didn't accept everything in the other side's case, and I can reach some compromises here.
Interesting.
I liken private FDRs a lot to private healthcare. The NHS is a wonderful organisation, and we are very blessed in this country to have it, but it is overworked and understaffed. And there are plenty of people out there, I'm sure, who are waiting for an operation or a procedure, etc., and they wait months. And then they arrive at the date that it was going to happen, and then they get a letter saying, I'm sorry, your surgery has been rescheduled.
And that happens
Come back
in
again in
courts
6
as well,
months.
doesn't it?
And this happens in court.
Yeah.
I've had it numerous times in the last month.
I had it this week.
Exactly.
I had it this week. 2 days ago, sorry, that thing that's been listed for months, no, we haven't got enough people, so we're going to list it sometime next year.
And it happens all the time in the family court as well, and ever increasing amount. So a private FDR gives you that certainty of time. And in the same sense of if you want to skip the NHS queue for your operation, you can go private healthcare, have that operation quite possibly done by the same doctor, but faster and in a nicer environment.
So I was talking to a chap the other day who had a problem with his anterior cruciate ligament. That's the footballer's knee injury, right? And he said he's only 20, and he was a health instructor, and he said he could have waited for a year or paid £11,000 to get his knee done. Is £11,000? What's the kind of price of these things? It's not the same as getting your knee done, is it?
So your own costs of your representation will be about the same, whether it's a private FDR in
or a
your solicitor's
FDR.
office or an FDR in the court system.
Right.
The additional cost is the cost of the judge.
Right.
So, and that depends on the experience. I'll be honest, you can go and hire a retired High Court judge to come and hear your private FDR. He or she will cost you a small fortune, tens, maybe even 12 plus £1,000 for the day if you really want to. But there are more than sufficiently experienced barristers and senior solicitors out there who you can get for a cheaper rate, but that rate based on their experience and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, okay.
And it will become much more affordable, especially when that cost is split.
Yeah.
Let's say a private FDR judge with, say, 10 years of experience practicing at the family bar might cost something like £3,000 to £4,000 plus VAT. You're splitting that equally with the other party in most cases, I would imagine. And that additional cost of, say, sort of £2,000 to £3,000 each is going to pale in comparison to waiting the extra 4 or 5 months for a court FDR and having less attention of the judge at the time.
Yeah, okay, I've got you.
So that's where the saving is.
That's been really interesting. I genuinely had no idea what you guys were always talking about. I know which route I'm going to go down if ever Mrs. Fenton decides she's had enough. And on that bombshell, thank you very much, Chris. If you have family law issues, do please contact us at Fenton Elliott Solicitors. We can help, particularly with private FDRs.